Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Dr. April Minhades, and today we're going to go over phase 4 desensitization, when to go back to target, when to check a SUD. In phase 3, you are activating the memory as it's currently stored, and then you're moving into phase 4 desensitization. I like to think of this as you're starting at a certain train station, a certain train stop. Let's say you're in Washington state and you are going to go on a trip and you're going to go to the other side of the United States, and maybe you're going to end up in Florida or maybe New York, somewhere in the East Coast. So when you bring up the memory in phase 3, activating that memory as it's currently stored, and then you move into phase 4, that's when you're starting your journey. And as you are moving along, whether you think of that as being on a train and looking out that window as the scenery is passing by, or perhaps you look at it as if you're watching a movie and the images are just going by on the screen, or maybe you're even imagining having a bird's eye view as if you were looking down from a drone's perspective, and then you're watching the images go by, and you are starting maybe in Washington state, and you're not going to stop in Washington state, because every time you say take a breath, let it go, what are you noticing, and new information is coming, then the client is making movement. Another way to think of this is if you think about a tree, a beautiful tree that has roots. And let's say that we are working on the kitchen memory from age 5. When you activate that memory as it's currently stored, that kitchen memory, you ask those 7 questions and then you move into phase 4. When you are saying take a breath, let it go, what are you noticing? Take a breath, let it go, what are you noticing now? Each time your client is giving you new information, you're down a channel of association. So look at that root right there. It's as if you are going along one of the root systems, one channel of association, one train track. And when you get too neutral, too positive, or too the same, then that indicates that you might be at the end of that channel of association. You might be at the end of that train track. You might be at the end of that root system. So again, you're looking at that memory. You are down one of the root systems and you get too neutral, too positive, or too the same. When that happens, then you need to go back up. You need to go back to that memory, or go to that memory as they experience it now. And when you go back to that memory as you experience it now, what are you noticing? And if there's new information there, then guess what? You're down another channel of association. You're down another root system path. In order to get that SUD to a 0, we are going to go down many different channels of association potentially. And so whenever you hit too neutral, too positive, too the same, that's your cue to go to check in on that original memory. In this example, the kitchen memory. When you bring up the memory as you experience it now, what are you noticing? The client tells you you're down a new channel of association. You're down a new root system. And then when you get too neutral, too positive, too the same, then we're going to go and check in. When you bring up that memory as you experience it now, what are you noticing now? We can think of it like a train on a train track. When you run out of train track, guess what? The train isn't going anywhere, right? But you're going and going and going until the client comes to what looks like might be the end. They might say too neutral, too positive, or too the same. And then we need to go back. We need to go to that memory as they experience it now, and then ask them, well, what are they noticing now? And if at that point they say, well, now I'm noticing X, Y, and Z, then imagine that you have the train track that is now, maybe instead of going straight, now it might go right or left. So you notice that there just really isn't any more train track left, at least initially. So we need to check in on it. When you do check in on it, going back to our tree analogy here, age 5 memory, it's the kitchen. You're checking in and you're saying, okay, when you bring up that memory as you experience it now, what are you noticing? When you do that, you are checking, are there any more channels of association here? Is there anything else I need to do? You're looking at, am I at the end of this root system? If you are, if when you check back in and there's no new information, so you get 2 neutral, 2 positive, then we're going to check the SUD. When you bring up that memory as you experience it now on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is neutral and no disturbance, and 10 is the highest disturbance you can imagine, how much disturbance are you feeling now? And then the client tells you. There's new information, the SUD is not a 0. There's new information coming up, then you are back at A. So initially, when we get into this, we are at A and we're saying, what do you notice? Go with that. What do you notice? Go with that. We're at the top of that tree. We're on the train track. And then you're going down that root system. You're going down the train track. And then you feel like you might be near the end of the roadway, the end of the track, or the end of that root system when you hear 2 neutral or 2 positive. And that's when you check in. You check in when you're at B. You check in and you say, when you bring up that memory as you experience it now, what are you noticing? If you do not get any new information there, if you get 2 neutral or 2 positive at that point, then you go to C and you check the SUD. Because you might be at the very end of that channel of association. You might nearly be completed with neutralizing that memory. But if you get more information when you check it at B or C, you get more information, then you're back at A. So the idea here is that you're on a journey. You start off in one location and you're going to another. And you start off with that phase 3 target assessment. You move into phase 4. And each time you're saying, what do you notice? Go with that. The brain is on the journey to heal itself. And when you hear 2 neutral, 2 positive, or 2 the same, then you're going to check in on that memory. When you bring up that memory as you experience it now, what are you noticing? We're either going to divert and go on a different track, or we're going to check in on it and see how disturbing is it 0 to 10. Once it is 0, then we're going to go to phase 5. But if you're still getting information, then there's this ever-ending loop, and it looks like AAA B, AAA B C, AAA B, AAA B C. And I was fortunate enough to be able to hear that example from a dear colleague and friend, Candida Condor, who came up with that example. If you would like a different visual on how this works, I have created a short video using this maze graphic. And if you'd like to listen to that or watch that, you can follow that QR code.